Welcome to Media Melanie Talks TV. I'm Melanie, and today I'm back to talk about School Spirit Season 2 on Paramount+. Following Episode 7, Anatomy of a Fallout Shelter, I thought I would come in hot with another theory video, this time on something I have been talking about throughout the season. The fact I believe Split River is somehow cursed, built on some sort of portal to the afterlife, or it is a purgatory. Perhaps as well, when Janet and Mr. Martin died in that fire, that was when this metaphysical energetic field formed that has allowed for these scars to happen. Now, in Split River, we've also seen ghosts at the hospital. We don't know if scars exist there. And yes, in ghost lore in general, it's not out of the realm for ghosts to be haunting the place where they died. But something is different about Split River High School. These ghosts aren't just stuck here. And yes, some of them have moved on, Janet, for instance. The fact that there are these scars, these traumas or hellscapes, that's something different that we don't often see in these ghost type of stories. First of all, I'm wondering, will we ever get to see a scenario where there are scars in the hospital, or is it different because the hospital deaths weren't in the same traumatic or tragic manner as these deaths at Split River High School? And maybe they're not connected, maybe it's not the town as a whole, maybe it is just the school itself as a physical building and geographic location. But I also just wanted to talk a little bit about the town's origin. I took to Reddit and discovered there's a theory by Observa. Actually, there's a couple of them I'm going to get into here. But the first one was that this person's mom thinks Split River was built on Two Rivers, Wisconsin. They initially thought it was based on Split Rock, Wisconsin, which is an unincorporated community in the town of Fairbanks. But no, she has since come to believe that Split River looks like two rivers. And just the naming of this town in general, another thing I've been mentioning is the river Styx. We know that to be this river, this boundary between the living and the afterlife. So I do wonder if it was intentionally named and if there is a nod to the afterlife here, or if it just happens to be named after another Wisconsin town. What do you think? Leave it in the comments. All right, before we get more into some of my theories, I have been scouring Reddit boards, doing a little bit of research on potential principles that could play into what we now know. We got confirmation in that letter that Quinn found in the school bus scar that yes, there is some sort of causal relationship between the school and this traumatic energy. We learned trauma is energy. And also, why was that piece of paper in the scar in the first place? I think that is pretty sus and could lend itself to the fact that Mr. Martin could still be this afterlife serial killer I've been talking about, potentially causing these deaths to maybe get more people involved in this experiment so that him and Janet could eventually move on, leave the school, or whatever his end game is. Before we dive into the nitty-gritty here, please be sure that you like this video, hit that subscribe button, and also just a quick thanks to all of the School Spirits community who's been here throughout the season. It's been a lot of fun talking about the show, and hopefully we're getting our Season 3 renewal news soon so we can all rest easy knowing we will be back to talk about it. One of the first things I'd like to talk about is the fact that what if Split River was in fact built on some sort of sacred land, or something in ancient or olden days happens there? And when the school was built and it had its first sense of repeating trauma with the fire that caused the deaths of Janet and Mr. Martin, potentially that's what opens up this energetic field for these scars. Now, if it was built on some sort of sacred land, or there is a tie to something that happened here prior in this physical location, why don't we see other ghosts? Wouldn't we be seeing, for instance, I don't know, indigenous people, older ghosts, besides just Janet and Mr. Martin, who seem like they are the first ones here? If they are the first ghosts here, in fact, and it's not necessarily tied to something that happened historically here, then that leads me to believe that this fire is what caused this metaphysical or energetic field to exist. Let's actually go ahead and read the letter that we saw from Janet's notebook in episode 7. First of all, this note was written in 2020, so just a few years ago, a relatively recent discovery with their experiments. Basic science stipulates that all chemical reactions generate some form of energy, either released or absorbed. So, it naturally follows that the experience of trauma within the body would generate a biochemical reaction or energy. Thus, trauma is energy, but where does that energy go? Is it released? Is it absorbed? Now, this is the really interesting part. After recent observations, it has come to my attention that the energy may very well have a causal relationship with the school itself. Now, there are some words underlined here. Some within trauma is energy and the school itself. I don't think those words necessarily mean anything, but the message as a whole that it is tied to the school itself. Does that mean the physical building, the boundary that surrounds it, the land it was built on, or does it have more to do with the actual town itself? I'm not sure about that, but we got confirmation that yes, there is in fact a link between the school and these scars, this traumatic energy. We've seen that throughout the show from the beginning when the lights flicker. That is confirmation that yes, some sort of energetic thing is happening. I'm wondering, do the living people also see the lights? Maybe I missed that. Maybe I missed a reaction to that. So if I did, let me know. But that veil definitely becomes thin when these energetic situations happen, as we saw with the janitor coming in the room and seeing Mr. Martin while Janet was inside of that scar. And it also makes me wonder, have other people at the school seen the ghosts and either not realized that they're ghosts or just kept their mouth shut like the janitor because they don't want to get themselves involved with drama and potentially lose their job like our guy, Mr. Anderson? But the energy is trauma is something they've really been building towards with these lights flickering, with the fact that there are these spaces that they discovered during their experiments. But what do they mean, and do they exist in other parts of Split River where ghosts are also living? Or dying, I should say, or existing. That would be the right word, where ghosts are existing. Let's talk about the stone tape theory, which I will put up some of it here on the screen. It is posted by Observa over in the School Spirits Reddit. This post is pretty interesting. So in the field of paranormal, supernatural, and parapsychology, there is the stone tape theory devised by the Society for Physical Research from 1882. That is near identical to what Mr. Martin has surmised. The stone tape theory is a pseudoscientific claim that ghosts and hauntings occur when historical information is released from rocks and other items. The idea of materials holding information from emotional or traumatic events aligns with views of 19th century intellectualists such as Charles Babbage, Eleanor Sidgwick, and Edmund Gurney. A 2014 study by a student at St. Mary's University in Minnesota, which is really close to Wisconsin, interestingly, actually took a look at the stone tape theory in paper. Many hypotheses have surfaced as to why paranormal activity manifests at a particular location, in this case, Split River High School, some locations of which are related to the geology and hydrology of a location. So that would actually tie into physical things that are on this property, not the physical building itself. And the mention of hydrology is interesting given we are in Split River built on water. These hypotheses include tectonic strain, stone tape, running water, and magnetic anomaly theories. This research attempts to spatially analyze variables that may promote an increased manifestation of paranormal activity. This research will also use alleged haunted locations to analyze correlations between the locations and individual geological and hydrological features. Results of this study indicate one or more geological or hydrological features that are suitable for paranormal activity to manifest. Wow. So this paper also kind of ties into something that Mr. Martin was saying as well. Paranormal is defined as not scientifically explainable based on Merriam-Webster 2013, and given the definition, it's not surprising the academic world recognizes parapsychology as pseudoscience. One of the main arguments the scientific community disregards paranormal research as a science is because most investigators conduct research in a non-controlled environment, and the results have yet to be proven as statistically significant. What's interesting about that is that Janet and Mr. Martin have approached their afterlife experiments and studies like a true scientific experiment. We got confirmation that the afterlife support group was actually a control group for these experiments as Mr. Martin and Janet explored the scars, and eventually Mr. Martin Martin locked Janet in her scar, essentially to torture her, try to get some answers so they could escape, even though I kind of think Mr. Martin's plan was to get out of there himself the whole time. I mean, does he actually care about Janet? TBD, I guess. This theory goes on to talk about limestone and quartz across the United States. And the fact that running water theory suggests distances for paranormal activity to manifest would need to be relatively close to running water, which makes sense because this town is called Split River High School. Is this town some sort of geological entity that has caused the traumas from the town to be absorbed, hold these spaces, and eventually allow some of them to move on? So if it is a portal, it's not necessarily a portal to hell, obviously, because we can assume Dawn crossed over into the bright light, which we assume to be the good place. And I'm just going to shout out one more time the fact that Mr. Martin tried to tell Janet that she didn't even know where she'd be crossing over to, and I did not like that at all. Do not appreciate him saying that Janet's going to hell, because in my estimation, if anybody is crossing over to the bad place from Split River High School Afterlife, it's going to be our boy Everett Martin. Am I right or am I right? Could it be that School Spirits is loosely based on this stone tape theory? And something I do wonder, they're revealing to us now that there is a causal relationship between the trauma and the school. Was this the plan the entire time, or is this something they've just gradually discussed in the writer's room and come to be, so that way if they do get a third season, they're going to have a bigger picture and more to discuss? I suppose that's possible, but I would be interested if I ever get a chance to talk to the creators. I think one of my top questions would be, was this a plan from the beginning in terms of this relationship between the school and whatever's going on in the afterlife, or was it something that developed as the show went on? What do you guys think? I would love to know. All right, so there's another theory that I found on Reddit about time slips. This one is by B. Marie M00008. And this person was listening to a podcast about something called time slips. They explain them as natural energy fields that have thin spots where time momentarily overlaps. Some theories propose that these are emotional or historically charged places that hold residual energy people are unknowingly tapped into. And this does kind of go with the stone tape theory a little bit. This Redditor goes on to say, it's far-fetched, but stay with me. I think it's the school that became the energy field after the fire happened. See, that's kind of what I was thinking as well. It held residual energy. Mr. Martin and Janet may know of these thin spots due to their knowledgeable background and slipped into the eras where the other students died, which would play into the fact that Mr. Martin could be this afterlife serial killer. And the fact that we found that missing notebook page in the school bus scar, that seems pretty sus to me. Anybody else? They may have tampered or experimented with the keys, which ultimately kill these students. They say during these time slips, the people in that era cannot see the people that slipped into them, or they don't pay attention. They probably were able to observe the students that were in an emotional state and created emotionally charged keys, which had a role in killing them. Why they may have tried killing them, I don't know. I know Mr. Martin viewed them as experiments, and seems that someone died around each decade, besides a few that shared the same decade. I'm not sure the reasoning as to why Mr. Martin and Janet would do this, but maybe you can all help me out. So, what do we think? Could there be some sort of time slip situation going? It's not necessarily time travel, and given we know there is this energy, could it be related somehow? The only thing that makes me think that maybe they didn't cause all of the deaths was the fact that we did get to see Rhonda's actual death and scar happening, and the fact that Janet and Mr. Martin in the afterlife did see those lights blinking when Rhonda did become a ghost. So from that perspective, I mean, it was the first time it happened, so maybe their gears weren't turning, but maybe after Rhonda showed up, after Janet picked up that acceptance letter, and then when the next death happened, like Janet said, they started putting the pieces together about how these keys work. Could they have potentially time slipped and somehow impacted these keys in a way that caused the deaths? That would be pretty wild. Doubling down on time slips, I did a little bit more research. I went on Medium and I found this article by Call Me V, which I will also link in the video description. Now, it's funny though, because when I first went to Wikipedia, it did talk about time slips being a fictional device, but it does seem like there is this kind of parascience surrounding the time slip. So whether or not it is used as a fictional device here or if it actually exists in the real world, it doesn't really matter because we are talking about a fictional TV show. So I do think time slips could come into play. And here's what that other article had to say in terms of time slips and the paranormal. Paranormal explanations and time portals. According to this theory, time slips may be the result of natural or man-made portals that allow for travel through time. Now, let me just start by saying I'm not saying this is a time travel show at all, but perhaps there is some sort of linkage to the fact that these ghosts are from different eras and we do have these afterlife experiments going on. Some paranormal researchers propose that certain locations, such as ancient standing stones or mysterious ancient ruins, may be natural time portals. Others suggest that man-made structures, such as certain buildings, Split River High School, or underground tunnels may be artificially created time portals. The idea that these portals act as a gateway between different eras, and when someone walks through one of these portals, they experience a sudden shift in time and space, leading to a sensation of a time slip. Could Mr. Martin not only be traveling through scars, but also traveling through time? But what's interesting to me is that part mentions artificially built time portals. Were the makers or builders of this school trying to build something like this? Because the school was built in 1956 and the Janet Mr. Martin fire was 1958. That's a pretty short period of time if that was the long game here. Could Split River, the town, be some evil entity with some dark corporation? I mean, are we talking like Apple, Severance, Lumen level stuff here? Or was it not artificial and it just happens to be perhaps built on some of these rocks that are holding on to these traumas? Another takeaway from this article on paranormal explanations goes into these spiritual explanations. And according to this theory, time slips may be caused by spiritual entities or forces such as ghosts or spirits. Some believe that spirits or ghosts of the past can interact with the present, causing a sudden shift in time and space, leading to the sensation of a time slip. Some people also suggest that certain spiritual practices, such as meditation or lucid dreaming, can open a gateway to other dimensions, leading to the experience of time slips. This reminds me of the anti-seance that they had during season 1. And the shift in time and space. These scars are from all different periods of time, yet they still appear to different people using these keys at Split River High School. So is there some sort of element of time and energy that are playing together here in our Split River world? And just to note, there have been actual historic references of some notable time slips. So if this fascinates you, then definitely do a little bit more looking into the Philadelphia experiment, the Enfield poltergeist, the Winchester Mystery House, and the Villisca Axe murder house. Those are a few references of this phenomenon that are listed in the Medium article that I will put in the description. But it does seem to me this physical building of Split River High School, whether it is tied to the land it was built on, or whether it was formed when Janet and Mr. Martin had their traumatic fire that caused their deaths. And that is what kind of magnetized the occurrence of these ghosts and their souls being attracted to and trapped in the high school until they're ready to cross over. And we know the energy shift happens when they become a ghost. We've seen the lights flicker. The lights will also flicker when the body swapping happens, and the lights also flicker when somebody moves on. So we've seen 3 separate types of instances where the lights and the energy and the trauma are definitely causing this sort of reaction. And just going back to that letter again in terms of the biochemical reactions and whether energy is absorbed or released, is it something in the rocks of this high school, in the land of the high school, that is allowing it to stay absorbed instead of being released where it should go? And again, that circles me back to the hospital. Is it just a normal ghost hospital where we have the spirits of the people who've died there? Or is there more to it? And is there some sort of interconnected portal or similarities between where the hospital was built, where the school was built, where the town as a whole was built, and perhaps all of these different institutions where anything traumatic has happened have these similar scars? And maybe that's something we'll get to see, maybe not. But one thing I can say for sure is the show did confirm energy is trauma, and there is a causal relationship between this trauma energy and the school itself. So for you haters out there who have been telling me all season that I am wrong and that the portal theory to hell, or whatever the geographical situation of the school itself is and this energy, I wasn't wrong, so you don't have to apologize, that's fine, but I personally will be patting myself on the back and taking this W. It also goes to show that no theory is a bad theory until proven otherwise, and the whole fun in talking about these TV shows that give this really solid mystery is the discourse, is having fun in the fandom, talking about theories, speculating. It's a lot of fun whether you're right or wrong, but it does feel a little extra good when something that you've thought for an entire season is actually confirmed. Now, the level of confirmation, that is still to be determined, but hopefully we'll get more answers in the finale, and then if we do get our season 3, we will get more answers, and perhaps there will be an even bigger picture paranormal investigation situation happening. So that is my latest school spirits theory as we head from episode 7, Anatomy of a Fallout Shelter, into the finale of season 2. Some of the big questions we're asking ourselves: are any of the ghosts going to cross over? Will any of the living end up dying and occupying Split River High School? Is Maddie going to get her body back? What about Mr. Anderson's body? His body is not looking to be in too good of shape. Will Mr. Martin need to inhabit another body in order to stay there in the living world? Lots of questions, and I hope that we get some really solid answers like we did in this last episode. But most of all, season 3. Please give us our season 3 of School Spirits. Thank you so much for tuning in, and again, to all the School Spirits fans who've been here chatting throughout the season. It's really been a lot of fun, and if you like videos like this where I talk about dark and mysterious TV shows, definitely check out some of my other coverage, including Severance on Apple TV+, Paradise on Hulu, which is just phenomenal, and also The White Lotus on HBO Max. I also plan to cover some other great TV shows here in 2025, so stick with me for more TV talk. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back again soon. And remember, don't miss my School Spirit Season 2 finale preview video, which will be dropping on Monday. I will go over some predictions and preview the finale and talk a little bit about what we can expect based on the information that's out there. Media Melanie, clicking off.